I'm John Rhys Davis, and you're listening to Bring Me Your Torch with Jesse and Elaine.
Welcome to another episode of Bring Me Your Torch. I'm Jesse.
And I'm Elaine.
On the show, we have another one of the stars of Timber Creek Lodge, originally from Australia. These days, she's all about Canada. Louise, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Now, I think the first question we have to ask you is, how does a nice Australian gal like you end up in the Great White North?
Well, I was teaching in a high school. I'm a drama and visual art teacher. And I looked around one day and I saw that all these teachers were so miserable. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. I don't want to be like this. I need to get out of this country and figure out, who I am and what I want to do with my life. So I left and I thought Canada's the perfect place to come for someone that's traveling on their own because it's safe and it's very similar to Australia in terms of its culture. And a lot of Australians come to Whistler. So I thought, why not? There's going to be lots of people here that are Australians. So, I came here, fell in love with it, and now I don't want to leave.
Well, you guys still recognize the Queen, right? So it's kind of like England, isn't
Yes.
it?
You got Canada,
yes.
you have Australia. It's all Commonwealth, right?
Yes, so Canada, New Zealand, Australia, and the UK are all still a part of the Commonwealth. So it is easier to travel between the countries because of it.
What I say is that if you look down at your money and the Queen is on it, you're probably feeling okay where you are.
Yes, yeah. It's it's a really safe place to be.
Well, the Brits are still mad about losing the America, but that's a story for a different time.
Yes.
They still talk about it, don't they? When we first heard about the show, though, we didn't really know what to expect. Bravo had a similar show. I don't know if you watched Après Ski last season.
I watched half of one episode and then turned it off.
So did I.
I liked it for the most part.
Well, for me, it just wasn't a realistic representation of Whistler.
Really?
Yeah, and it had to do with the people that they cast. The people that they cast were predominantly from the US, and we don't have a lot of people from the US that live and work in Whistler. So that was the first point to me, was like, this doesn't really fit right with me because they're not demonstrating the true cultures that actually live and work here. And not to mention those people that were cast in that position they didn't necessarily have the experience in the job that they were employed for. They had more of an experience as an actor than they did as a concierge.
That's really interesting. Do you think that's why Timber Creek Lodge is doing a little bit better? Well, a lot better?
Yes. Yeah, I definitely think that this time they really cast it appropriately. You've got to put Australians into the show. There are so many Australians that live in Whistler that, by putting 2 Australians into the show is an extremely realistic representation. And yes, they cast people based on their experience in the job position. And then afterwards came the fact that, they look okay and they can talk pretty well and they look good on camera.
Wow, that's really interesting because you guys fraternize a lot with the clients. So,
Well, not Louise. We'll talk about that a little later, but some of the other ones. That actually,
Mark and Jenna.
That leads into what I wanted to say. That I say this in the nicest way possible, Louise, but the lodge was full of lunatics this season, and by default, you somehow kind of became, I guess you'd say, the house mom. I think that's a good thing, not a bad thing. That is being the sane person in a sea of craziness something you're used to, or is that something that was new to you this time?
It's so funny because if you ask the other cast members, they'll probably say that I'm the craziest of all of them.
Oh gosh.
And it's mostly just because I have a different outlook on life. And I've been through the ringer, like I've learnt the hard way many times over. So, I've kind of been through all of those life experiences that some of them are starting to go through now in their lives. But yeah, there's definitely, as we've seen, there's some fraternizing, and there's obviously partying, and there's drama. And, that really just naturally happened. And, in Whistler, we party hard, we work hard, we play hard. And, there's people are sleeping with everybody. You know what I mean? Like,
I know, I'm going on vacation next.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. It's the perfect place to come, although there is a higher percentage of men than there are women in Whistler.
Oh,
So
then
for
I'm there.
women,
Wait, I'm married.
Yeah. Oh, you're married.
Damn it.
But it's very easy for a woman to pick up in Whistler. It is easy for a man to pick up in Whistler too, especially because the girls are here to have a good time and they don't really care what the repercussions are. But yeah, I would say what's happening in the lodge is pretty spot on. And I just didn't engage with that because I have a long-term boyfriend for one, but also I've been there. I've done that. I'm 30 years old now. I've taken nearly every drug you can possibly imagine. I've partied many times over for days on end.
Yeah.
It's just like I've done it. I don't need to do it anymore.
It's weird when you start thinking of yourself as being old. Oh yeah, those kids are just going crazy. And I'm 35, and sometimes when I talk to people I work with who are like 25, I feel like I'm acting like I'm 60.
You old man.
Well, yeah, and it's so funny because our age differences within the cast aren't that vast. I mean, Mark is only a year younger than me, but the difference is he's an only child, and he's been given a lot in his life, whereas I've had to work really hard and figure things out for myself. So it just really depends on how much experience you have in your life depicting the way that you're acting at your age.
Well, we can really appreciate your work ethic because I think you're a really hard worker. Definitely.
Yes, I will say that for sure. I've had to work hard throughout my life, and I continue to do so because I believe that's how you get the rewards in the end.
Well, I love that. But so is it safe to say that you're not sleeping in other people's bed in Whistler, but you're sleeping in a tent? So what's the whole tent, sleeping out there in a tent thing?
So, I in the past have had issues with anger management, and so I didn't actually end up murdering anyone. I decided to pitch a tent in the backyard because it was just like I live in a house with two other people in Whistler. I have my own bedroom. I'm not living in a house with 8 other people. So that many people around was just a bit too much for me. And it was kind of like took me back to when I was in university. And it was just too much all the time. So I just needed that space. And I love camping and I love hiking and I love being outside. So, getting that escape from them as well as being outside was just the perfect kind of chill time for me so I could regroup and then be able to take on the next group of guests.
Definitely. So were you living in Whistler right before you got cast for the show?
Yes. Yeah, I've been living in Whistler for 4 years now.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
Yeah. So there's myself and Cynthia who live in Whistler currently.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you became accustomed to just doing your own thing and living kind of without a million people on top of you and cameras, by the way.
Yes, that's right. And I mean, in Whistler, it is pretty common to have houses with, anywhere from 10 to 20 people. You're sharing a room with someone else. Yeah, it is commonplace. And they did want to depict that on the show. So, 8 people in a house is a lot better than 20. Like a friend of mine, she's currently sharing a room with another guy. It's like there's no privacy.
Oh,
there's partying all the time. There's, you barely sleep. You're working and you're partying, and that's really all you're doing.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No, not at all.
But we had a lot of fun. I don't know if we talked to Jenna last week, and we talked about Mark and all the drama that's been happening this season. What's your take on their relationship in the house? Was it destructive to the house, or them running off, having sex in, the bedrooms and you having to clean up? I mean, what happened with that?
Okay. Well, I mean, when it started happening, I was kind of like, oh yeah, they're just having fun, whatever. They can go off and do their thing. It's none of my business, just as long as they get their jobs done. But then obviously when they decided to use the lodge for their little, love shack, and they did it, like, my main thing was there was no sheets on the bed. Like, I had stripped the beds and they were in there with no sheets.
Forever
like,
unclean.
Yeah, so I was just a bit like, ew, you guys, like, ugh. And also I had cleaned the lodge as well. So I found it disrespectful. Because I kind of felt like the lodge was my home because I was in charge of taking care of it. And then they go and do this. So they not only disrespected the lodge, but they disrespected me. And they didn't see it that way, but that's because majority of the cast only thinks about themselves first. So, it was difficult for me because I don't put myself first, and I never really have. So when they did that sort of thing to me, I was just thinking to myself, like, I would never do that to anybody. And I can't believe someone did that to me. So and then obviously as the season progressed and their relationship started to fall apart, I never gave my point of view to Jenna because I would work with Jenna all the time. Obviously, Mark would go off and do his thing, and I was left in the house with Jenna and Nikita most of the time. And Jenna and I would have conversations throughout the season, but I never really shared my point of view about Mark because I've been in that position before where people have tried to tell me, this guy's no good for you, you're not a good fit, and you don't listen. You need to figure it out for yourself. So
well, tell us how you really feel.
Yeah.
Love it.
Well, that's what you're going to get with me. I'm just real and I'm honest and I'm just open. But so I think you'll see me kind of talk to Jenna a little bit more about their relationship. They haven't really shown it as yet, but I have a feeling that there is going to be a little bit more of me talking to Jenna about the situation.
Did they put closure on it? Because I feel like there wasn't, like, from what we talked, we need to have Jenna back on, but I feel like there was not closure on their relationship.
Well, it looks like there's going to be a little hanky-panky going on with Mark next episode, so I think we might hear something then, possibly.
Yeah. So, in terms of closure, I'm not sure because I haven't seen the next episode. I've only seen as much as you guys have, and I don't know what they edit in and what they edit out. But you'll definitely see Jenna and Mark talk it out and do figure some things out, but I'm not quite sure how they're going to close it.
How long were you guys there from, like, the start of production to the end?
It was 7 weeks.
7 weeks. Okay. So that gives us a good reference point of their relationship and how long it would have been that it evolved and then sort of fizzled out. And
yeah, well, those are the kind of relationships that kind of, burn bright, but short.
Yeah.
And then
burn. I mean, when you're living in a house with somebody that you're sexually attracted to, I mean, obviously, go for it. That's what you're going to do. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're good for each other in the relationship sense. So I think my point of view is that Jenna and Mark were really hot for each other. They had a really good sexual connection, but that's it.
I mean, I know that problem. I think everyone I've lived with has that problem with me. It's,
yeah.
You dog.
So, as you said a few minutes ago, everybody in the cast seems to kind of, think of themselves first, or as I mentioned, they're going crazy. So, when I look at this cast, and I look at the storylines, everything that happened, I really think that you and Blake didn't get as much screen time as you should have because you kind of came across as the most, I guess, quote unquote, normal. And is that an accurate depiction of what I see with Blake, or is he off doing? I know he has the girlfriend too, but was he off getting a little crazy and we just didn't see it, or?
No, I mean, Blake is just the most calm, like, sweetest guy ever. Like, he wouldn't even hurt a fly. I mean, he never got angry. He was always the one that was there kind of, calming people down and sorting the situation out. So, yeah, I guess he didn't get as much camera time because he wasn't creating dramas. He wasn't getting angry. We did see him get upset in the last episode, but, that was rare. That was the only time he really did get upset. So, I mean, there was a lot of times, a lot more that you haven't seen that I blew up. Like the redhead comes out and all of a sudden, there I am and I've turned into the Hulk with red hair. But, and they didn't really show too much of that, I guess maybe because it didn't fit into the story and maybe they wanted to depict me more as, the worker, the one that's professional, the one that gets the work done and, is there to pick up the pieces once it all falls apart and basically just get people in line.
Love it.
Yeah, and I guess so maybe because Blake and I are in relationships, there wasn't the possibility of us hooking up with anybody that maybe is the reason why we didn't get as much camera time.
That's in production always has their little way that they kind of want the audience to view things. So that's very interesting.
But we love them anyways.
Yeah. But it's like, I mean, you guys talk about reality shows all the time, right? There's a formula. There's definitely the stereotypes that they need to adhere to so that people in the US will watch it.
We always say we shouldn't be surprised when we find out that there are aspects that are not real in reality TV.
Yeah, but I will say this one really was.
Awesome.
Like there was no scripting. Like, of course, the producers would come in at times and say things, but a lot of the time it really was just us, just being ourselves in the moment under the pressure that we were in.
So you really cleaned toilets for the guests that came in and paid money to stay at Whistler in these lodges.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I definitely did that.
And were these people really wealthy? Because I couldn't get a pulse on if they came in millionaires or if they were just sort of, army brats who got paid, $60,000, $100,000 a year. I didn't get a sense of that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess the guests that came through were all quite varied. And I mean, all of them did have money to some degree. Obviously, a lot more than me. But I mean, if you're going to compare it to something like Below Deck, I mean, if you're going to come to Whistler, it's not cheap. Like even to go to a restaurant's expensive, accommodation's expensive. I think majority of these guests that just came through were just like, hardworking people that I guess have good jobs and they have enough expendable money that they can come on a vacation like this. The Newbury girls, for example, I'm pretty sure they're just silver spoon children. So, they know nothing else but money.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I mentioned this to Jenna. Is there any way you can get us the friends and family discount?
Friends and family discount. Well, I mean, I do know a lot of people in Whistler, being in Whistler, and, I'm out and about, and I've had a number of jobs here. So I know a lot of people at the Gibbons group. So, yeah, we can definitely talk about it.
That's so sweet. Well, so we saw Katie leave pretty early, and I don't even know if any of us remember Katie. For our listeners, Jamie took Katie's spot, stepped up. I think he did a great job filling a role, but what do you think about that? Do you think he kind of lived up to what Katie kind of expected for the season?
I think that Jamie got thrown into a position that he has no experience doing, nor did he want to do. And he did the best with the team and the tools that he had presented to him. I mean, Jamie learned a lot throughout the process. And I mean, it's not exactly a job that he's going to jump right back into either. He has to, with the season 2, if that's going to happen, he's already told me that he's going to really think about coming back as the lodge manager because he's not sure if that's something that he really wants to do. Like his experience is like he's a personal assistant. That's what he does for a job. So he's used to helping other people. He's not used to being the leader where everyone follows what he says. So, I mean, I try to support Jamie as best as I possibly could. I mean, in my personal opinion, I was probably the one that could handle it the best. But because the rest of the cast or the staff didn't really take me seriously because I am different, it wouldn't have worked out.
Well, I almost died laughing when you were giving your advice to Jamie and mentioned that, if you were in charge, you would have fired Nikita. And then you look down and he's like, fired. And you're like, yeah, I know. And you look down, your arm's on fire.
Yes. It was so weird how that happened. It's just like the universe just like brought the fire out of me into fruition.
I just need you two back. I need you two back for season 2 because I just think you're such a great dynamic together.
You kind of have a crush on Jamie, I think.
I think we all do.
Yeah, I know. I love Jamie. And honestly, like when I say that like everyone kind of thinks about themselves, well, not Blake and not Jamie.
Yeah.
You know, like those two guys really are like genuinely like just nice guys that will do anything to help you.
Right. Well, when I was looking for questions to ask you, I was looking around the internet, seeing what I could dig up on you, see if I could find any dirt, and came across your website, louiserobinson.net, and I was looking at it and saw that you describe yourself as a 5'8", long-legged ginger with brown eyes and a big smile. And I thought to myself, I always thought ginger was a derogatory term. Are you taking ginger back? Are you a proud ginger, I guess you'd say?
Oh yes, definitely. Yeah. A number of my ginger friends as well refer to themselves as gingers. So that's the hit thing for redheads these days.
Yeah, but are we allowed to call you a ginger, or is that like using other words?
You want to make sure it's
definitely.
cool.
Yeah, I have friends call me, actually a friend in Australia, he calls me fire crutch.
Oh, yes.
So,
yes.
ginger is not going to offend me at all.
Isn't that what they called Lindsay Lohan, though?
Yeah.
They were calling her Fire Crotch at one point.
Yes.
I think you have to either really like somebody or really hate somebody to call them that. Otherwise, it's not cool to say that.
Yeah.
But your website also says you can do British accents. Is that right? Any chance we can hear what that sounds like? Because I know I want to.
Oh, sure, darling. What would you like me to say for you? Would you like me to put some tea on? We can sit down and have a little tea party.
You sound like bloody Lisa Vanderpump.
Yes. Yeah, so I would say that it's more of like an upper class English accent.
Kind of posh.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, quite a posh accent. My American accent, mind you, I sound really stupid, like a valley girl.
Well, you have to plug your nose a little bit, don't you? You kind of have to go, "Hey guys, Elaine here.
Yeah.
Bring me your torch."
Yeah, it's like, oh, hey you guys, like are we gonna go down to the beach and we're gonna like frolic around in our bikinis? Oh my God, we're so hot.
All right, calm down. Jesse's going crazy over here.
Well, that's not bad because if I did my Australian accent, it's basically what you think an American would do, like "Hey, good day, mate," that kind of stuff that every person who's never been to Australia does. So I give you credit. I think you sound good.
Oh, well, thank you. I definitely serve enough of Americans, and listen to them enough so I know what they sound like.
But when you're not in hospitality, you're also acting, and I saw that you do some comedy.
Yeah, so I'm like a jack of all trades and a master of none. So, yeah, I'm a drama teacher, so I teach that to adults and kids. As well as I'm an actress and I do some writing. I'm about to actually do my first stand-up piece this year in a competition that they hold in Whistler. As well as, I'm a cleaner and a server. Just that's my money. That's how I make my money whilst I have my passions on the side.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And one of the things I loved, I checked out your IMDb page, and
yes.
Your role for Control Shift was Pretty Girl, and I think that's going to be a pretty good ego boost to be able to get a role that says Pretty Girl. I've never had a role called Handsome Man. I think that's a crime.
Yeah, it's so funny. That's actually my friend Angie Nolan who made that film. So she's got the credit for doing the pretty girl thing. And it wasn't originally supposed to be pretty girl until they were in the editing bay, and the editors were apparently like very distracted when it came to editing my scene. So that's why she called me pretty girl, because the editors apparently couldn't control themselves.
Well, I don't know how things are in Canada when it comes to this, but in the lower 48, I think we're often intrigued by Australians, and as a result, we unknowingly often say obnoxious, stupid things to them. So with that in mind, I was hoping we have a segment of the show called Stupid Things Americans Ask Australians. Is that cool? Are you game?
Oh, yeah, totally.
Oh, well, then the first question, so... and I'm sorry. First question: Paul Hogan, is he a national treasure, or is he overstayed his welcome? Are you tired of him?
Well, I mean, he's obviously an Australian icon, and a lot of people know who he is, as well as oh gosh, his name escapes me right now. But you know, it's like that stereotypical kind of Australian. Everyone expects us to be riding kangaroos to school, and we all got a pet snake. And we all, you know, like
koalas,
live in the desert, you know. But it's funny. We are normal people. We, you know, as exotic as our accent might be, you know, we just live normal lives like you guys do too. And we have cities and we have beaches, and as well as we have a lot of desert too.
But if you can survive a place where pretty much everything wants to kill you, I think you come out stronger. Between the spiders and the jellyfish and the snakes, oh my God, you know, I'm not
Hey, we got guns here, drugs, and Donald Trump. I mean, things want to kill us in the U.S. too.
Yes. Ours are more just of the animal nature as opposed to the humans. But you know, it's kind of like you're brought up around those things, so you're taught how to deal with them. You know, like there's a spider which lives under your like patio furniture that can kill you so quickly that, you know, you have to check your patio furniture before you sit down, and you're just taught that you need to check your patio furniture before you take a seat to make sure that redback spider isn't there waiting for you.
Or check your shoes.
That too, yes, that too.
So are people constantly quoting famous Australian phrases like, put another shrimp on the barbie, or the dingo ate my baby?
Yes, actually, yeah. You know, you get the usual, oh, g'day, mate, you know, and then they'll say those things as well. You know, the classic quotes from Crocodile Dundee always come out.
That's not a knife. This is a knife, you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and even I make a joke about it too. You know, it's the easiest way to do it, because that's just the cultural reference that they have. And, you know, I'm just like laugh it off, and, you know, maybe sometimes I make a smart ass joke depending on what mood I'm in. But majority of the time it's just like, oh, yeah, you're just American.
Would you have any lines that you would think are very American that you would say back?
No, not particularly. There's nothing I can think of particularly. It's more of just the, you know, the cultural differences, I guess, in that, well, when I'm serving in the restaurant that I work in, you can definitely tell an American versus a Canadian, because a lot of the time Canadians culturally are, you know, just very nice, and they always say sorry, and they always say please and thank you, whereas Americans generally tend to be a bit more demanding and impatient.
Well, you know, there are two kind of Americans abroad. There are those who are like, you know, normal and fit in, and then there are those who are like USA, USA.
Yeah.
Most probably fall into that category, right?
Yeah, but again, it's all generalizations, and I try to take everyone as individuals.
Well, I guess the next question we have is, so Aussies versus Kiwis, is that kind of like an America versus Canadian thing? Like, I've been told that Australians are to Americans as New Zealanders are to Canadians. Is that a correct comparison?
Yes. Yeah, I would say so. There is, like, you know, just a little bit of that rivalry. It's like when a Canadian gets mistaken for an American, they're a bit like, no, I'm Canadian. And it's the same with Kiwis and Australians. You know, like, it doesn't bother me personally, because both of my parents are actually Kiwis, and then I was born in Australia. So I don't have any of that sort of rivalry, but Australians will definitely rip on Kiwis more than Kiwis rip on Australians.
That's interesting. I don't know. Do Americans rip on Canadians?
Well, we call Canada America's hat, things like that. You know.
I actually read something online recently where someone didn't even know that Canada was another country. They thought that it was a state of America. I was like, okay, that's interesting.
That's a big state.
Yeah, really, really big state.
Well, they'll probably know the difference on Friday, right?
Yes. Yes.
So was it weird seeing the toilet spinning the opposite way in Canada? Is that the Simpsons joke? What does it really happen?
Yeah, in the northern and southern hemispheres, in Australia, it would go counterclockwise, and in the northern hemisphere, it would go clockwise, right?
Yes, that's correct. It wasn't so much the direction; it was more the amount of water that sits in the toilets here. So the water is a lot higher, whereas in Australia it's a lot less. But that has to do with the drought. In Australia, we use a lot less water because it gets so hot and sometimes doesn't rain for really long periods of time. So I remember even just before I left Australia 4 years ago, we had limitations on how long we could take a shower for. It was 1 shower a day for 2 minutes only.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how can they gauge that though?
It's really hard. But I think a lot of places ended up having water meters installed by the government in order to monitor it, and then they started charging people for water.
So they didn't have an irrigation system in their front yard and backyard, to say the least.
No, I mean some places do. I mean, obviously, if you're out in the country, a lot of places do have irrigation systems. But in cities, like I grew up in a city, it's just regularly how your water comes to you.
Well, I was going to ask you something about, Outback and Awesome Blossom. I decided against it. So my final question of this segment is, to me, at least as far as I know, the first Australian comic book character that was really big in America was named Captain Boomerang. How does that make you feel? So it's a little on the nose, isn't it?
Well, I mean, it's a stereotype. I don't know how to throw a boomerang. It's an Aboriginal tool that was used for hunting. So, a lot of obviously they took all the criminals from England and moved them over to Australia and then told them to wipe out all the Aboriginal people. So a lot of the white people in Australia don't know how to use a boomerang and will never be taught how to use a boomerang because it is an Aboriginal tool.
That got much deeper than I expected.
Yeah, great response.
No,
Very insightful.
No. That
I have to get Wikipedia out.
Well, I guess that would conclude the segment of stupid questions that Americans ask Australians. So I appreciate you playing along.
The funniest thing I actually get from Americans is their awe at my accent. Whether it be men or women, they're just like, oh my God, I love your accent. Like I'm from some exotic planet that they've never heard of before.
It's so true. I had a friend who was from England, and I would call what he did British bombing. That I'd be talking to some girls out somewhere, and he'd be like, "Oh, hello," and they'd be like, "Oh," and they'd start fawning over him. And I'm like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah, let's just say I've never found it hard to pick up in Canada.
Oh, I love it. It's awesome. Thank you so much for being such a good sport, though. You're so insightful and well-spoken, and we have a lot to kind of think about now that we've talked to you. But before we go, can we get a preview of what to expect in the upcoming season finale?
Mm-hmm. Well, obviously, I don't want to give too much away, and I don't know what they've edited in, but I will say that it does come to a conclusion quite nicely. Even with all the ups and downs, we are still a team. And I mean, even to this day, we all still talk to each other and we're all still friends.
And hopefully we'll see you guys all be friends on season 2.
Definitely.
Yes, I mean, we don't know yet. We're all hoping for that.
Our fingers are crossed for you. So thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it. You've been so much fun. And, if we come back for another season, we'd love to have you back.
Yes, well, thank you so much for having me.
And before you go, I was hoping, would you mind doing kind of an intro to our show we usually have the guests do?
Yeah, sure.
It would be just something like, this is Louise from Timber Creek Lodge, and you're listening to Jesse and Elaine on Bring Me Your Torch. Something along those lines?
Okay, cool. Hi, this is Louise from Timber Creek Lodge, and you're listening to Jesse and Elaine from Bring Me Your Torch.
Awesome.
Good job.
We can tell you're a pro.
You are.
Yes, I've done a lot of public speaking and acting, that's for sure.
Well, I worked in politics, so I did a lot of public speaking, but a little more negative outcome, I think, if you ask people.
Right. Yes, whereas I'm just, frolicking around being characters and such.
When you're a big star, I want you to remember us and put us in your movie.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Well, we have to get to that point first.
Hey,
You will, don't
baby
worry.
steps.
You're a hard worker. It'll happen for you.
Oh, well, thanks, you guys.
Great. So we'll probably end up posting this Monday to coincide with the season finale. So we'll probably put it out in the morning and then just start doing some stuff on Twitter as the show starts.
Okay, that sounds great. Awesome.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Okay,
Thanks,
thanks so much,
Louise.
you guys. Have a great night.
Bye. You
You too.
too.
Okay,
Bye.
Well, that was just awesome. She is an awesome, awesome woman. So much fun. I love this podcast.
She's very well spoken and insightful and wise beyond her years. That was a very great interview. I hope we have her back soon.
And she was able to play along and be a good sport. That's the most important thing. And when we were thinking about putting together this, stupid things Americans ask Australians, if you get the wrong Australian, they may be beating you up as opposed to answering. But she played along with it the entire time. It was great.
She was a great sport, definitely.
So now make sure to go to our website at www.bringmeyourtorch.com. But where else can you go?
Facebook.com/bringmeyourtorch or Twitter.com/bringmeyourtorch without the H, and now
No H?
Snapchat
Well,
without an H.
I almost talked over you. Snapchat also, huh? Wait,
Yeah,
it's
we're-
Snapchat's without an H, though. It's Bring Me Your Torch.
Yeah, it's the same as Twitter.
Oh.
They only limit you to 10 characters.
Oh, these damn characters screwing us over. But yeah, find us on Snapchat. I'm of the age where I don't understand it, so you can run that one. Don't do anything to embarrass us. You can also go to iTunes, leave us 5 stars and a wonderful review. You can go, if you have a Android, go to Stitcher, go to Blueberry, any app that has podcasts. We're going to be there. You can go to YouTube, click on our videos, give us pennies. We love pennies from heaven. And after you just click on all of our sites, which is awesome, you can remember that you may have come here as a stranger, but you're leaving as a friend. We'll see you next time on Bring Me Your Torch.
Bye.